What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the G Show podcast. I am G1, and this is the Geek Out, episode 29. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Hope y'all had a really good time. I cannot eat any more leftovers. I'm done. I am leftovered out. When you start smelling like turkey, there is a fucking issue no matter how many times you bathe. And I'm done. I'm just done. Today's a Burger King type of day. But anyhow, I hope you guys are happy. I'm happy, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you guys being here, and I am thankful for my two guests. Not my guests. They're not my guests anymore. They're my co-hosts. We got C. Monty coming from New York City. What's up, my brother?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Also, wasn't here for the Justice League review podcast because he was building shelves for Santa. We got Mr. Mac G95. What's up, my brother?
Hello, everyone. I'm thankful that spiders are not the size of dogs, as they would quickly become the most dominant species on the earth.
Hands down.
What do you think for?
Hands down. All right, look, we already had our Justice League spiel, but Matt, you didn't get a chance to chime in, so I'm gonna give you about 5 minutes, give or take, however long you need, and just talk about your feelings in Justice League and why you've seen it, 3 times and why you hate it so much. I don't understand this.
I really, really enjoyed the movie. Give it a solid 8 out of 10, 7.5. Yeah, I really dug the movie. It beat my very low expectations, but it wasn't the tremendous superhero movie I was hoping for. I liked it more than Thor, but I don't know. It was pretty good. They got a lot right. They nailed Superman finally. Aquaman and Flash were awesome. Wonder Woman, as always, kicks ass. But I wasn't happy with the direction it took Batman. I wasn't really happy with a lot of the more Whedon-esque things that made it into the final cut. Steppenwolf, I felt, was a weak villain, and the CGI felt kind of not that great. I didn't even notice the Henry Cavill lip thing, either time I saw it. So I can't really speak on that. But there are a lot of things I really, really liked, a lot of things didn't like, but more pros and cons. I read the list of things that were allegedly supposed to be in Zack Snyder's original version, and that sounds way cooler. I'm down always to see more Ares, more Darkseid, more Lanterns, shit that wasn't even really alluded to in the movie. But maybe we'll get a director's cut. I really liked it. I hope that WB pushes on and keeps making these movies, because I think they're finally starting to get their act together. This was, I would say, the second best DC EU movie, next to Wonder Woman, of course. But yeah, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Solid score. Chris, we already spoke. We had our scores in. I gave it a flawless victory, 10 out of 10. I didn't. But no, that was good. I'll tell you that was good. So, the topic of today basically is, now that you got that out of the way, is why does Justice League seem like a financial flop? I mean, just by going by the numbers we've seen so far, domestically, you have to consider it a financial failure, because a $96 million opening, which is absolutely astonishing in its own right, means absolutely nothing for a movie of this size and magnitude in today's age that we live in, where, Transformers is easily breaking $1 billion. A Fast and Furious franchise is easily breaking $1 billion. This is kind of crazy that you have the world's greatest superheroes finally coming together, and it does not crack $100 million opening weekend. I personally believe that is a failure. Again, in this day and age, it doesn't make any damn sense. But I want to know this is a conversation we're going to have. Why do you think it's a failure? Why do you think this movie didn't make $100 million opening weekend? Why do you think it's not making that good money domestically? Because I know worldwide, internationally, it's made a pretty penny. I think it might have come close to making its money back. But yeah, so I'm gonna start with you, Chris, because you kind of called me out on it yesterday. I think it's a financial failure so far. You might think otherwise. Why is that?
I mean, honestly, like, this feels like one of those kind of things where they're judging shit on different standards than other things. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah, it wasn't a huge, like, people didn't know about Guardians of the Galaxy the way you know about the Justice League characters. But, like, it made, like, something like $94 million its opening weekend. And it was like this huge breakout. Oh, we can't believe it made that much money. And Justice League makes 96, which is only 4 short of 100. And people are calling it a failure. Like, yeah, maybe the expectation is something as big of a name as Justice League should have made $115 million its opening weekend. But 96 is a solid opening. It's it's a good opening. It's not like it tanked at the box office at its opening weekend. It was the number one opening for that weekend. It's because it didn't make the extra $4 million, the extra $10 million it would have, they were hoping for. It doesn't make it a failure. And it's in its second weekend, and that's the thing. Like, okay, it made $96 million. Its opening weekend. It didn't do so great that Monday. Then that following Tuesday, it had a huge uptick, like from the previous night, from Monday going into Tuesday. Tuesday it did like $10 million. This past Friday, it stayed at number 2. It got beat out by Coco, which is a family film. Family films are always going to do great. But Thursday night it did $8 million. Friday night it did 16. So that's almost 100% increase from Thursday to Friday. Like, it's 400 million worldwide. It's doing great in China. These things are always going to do better overseas than they do here.
Right.
But I don't understand why close to 100 million is a failure. It just feels like people are putting this undue standard on it, and they kind of want to phrase it in this context like they wanted it to have failed. And I don't agree with that at all. Like, I think it's doing just fine. It's going to make back all its money. It's more than likely going to turn a profit. And it's really annoying to me that people are putting this stress on this and saying, oh, it's a failure. Because then that sends Warner Brothers the message that this is not the type of movie we want to see. And they're going to start shifting course to try and make the franchise more financially sound. Whereas opposed to this is the direction the movie should be going. And they should be taking away from this movie the message that, yeah, it wasn't perfect. There were flaws, but this is more in line from what fans want to see from the DC universe. And if we keep phrasing in this context, oh, it's a failure, it's bombing, it's not doing great, it's not meeting expectations, then one of us is going to be like, oh, fuck it, and we need to change course again. Stop. It's doing fine. Maybe not exceptional, but it's doing really good.
Okay. Respect that. I do. Matt, let me ask you a question. Do you think this is a failure, or you think along the lines of Chris?
I'm going to pretty much echo what Chris said. I don't consider 96 million to be a failure, because it's not. It's a tremendous amount of money, and that's a really strong opening weekend. And as of Friday, I think I checked, and it made 315 million worldwide. So it's made its budget back, its production budget at least. And it's only been out just over a week, so it's gonna turn a profit. It's inevitable. And I think the projections for the opening weekend was supposed to be like 100 million, 110 million or something.
It was about 125.
Yeah, they always overestimate those things, I think. That's just what they're hoping hoping to make. That doesn't mean just because it didn't hit that mark doesn't mean it's a failure. You know, you take a test, you hope to get 100%, but if you still get like an 84 or whatever, that's still pretty fucking good. That's like a B minus. That's still pretty decent. But yeah, I agree with Chris. I think they're judging Justice League on a harsher curve than any other movies or any other superhero movies, especially Marvel movies, because, you know, to a lot of people, Marvel can do no wrong, and that kind of elitism just harbors like bad feelings towards DC, I think. That's just my take of it. That a lot of people kind of don't want these movies to succeed because you know, you can say whatever you want about Man of Steel, you can say whatever you want about BVS or Suicide Squad. You know, those have their flaws too, and so does Justice League. But that doesn't mean that, especially Justice League, it doesn't mean it's a bad movie just because it has some problems. You could, you know, throw a rock and hit like the cookie cutter formula of tons of Marvel movies, and those don't get nearly as much shit as Justice League is getting. And yeah, I don't know. I think it might be underperforming is a strong word, I think, but not hitting that mark that everybody thought it was going to make seems more in line. I don't think that's a bad thing. So yeah, not a failure in my book.
Let me ask you this question. You mentioned the Marvel elitism and that mindset. I agree along those lines to an extent, but do you think that might have had something to do with this too? Because Thor's still strong in the box office, even though I think it's in 4th place right now. But it made a ton of money. This year, pretty much every single Marvel movie made a shit ton of money, starting with Guardians, Spider-Man, and then Thor. Do you think that the elitism is a problem?
People's attitudes toward it are, but I don't think the movies themselves are the problem. Like, I mean, of course, Spider-Man and Thor is going to make a shit ton of movie. It's Marvel. It's an established brand, and it's been an established brand for almost 10 years. You know, that's like being surprised that Fast and Furious makes money.
Yeah.
You know, it's an established brand, and DC is fairly new still. I mean, 5 years or so, roughly, and you know, 5 movies. That's fairly new, and I think you do have to take into account the how disappointing pretty much all of them have been, except for Wonder Woman. But yeah, that the fanboy elitism internet trolls are definitely a problem within the community. I don't know if that's necessarily contributing to box office numbers. I think those are two kind of separate issues.
Chris, all right, I'm going to let you stew in that. Chris, I'm asking you the same question. You think the elitism, the elitists, the elite fanboys of Marvel, who more than likely did not see this movie in conventional ways, do you think they contributed to this low box office?
Well, I definitely feel like the Marvel versus DC mentality when it comes to the cinematic universes probably did factor in. You know, as someone who leans more Marvel than DC, just because, as Matt said, it's an established brand and it's already been out there for like 10 years now. You're more familiar with it, whereas DC is kind of trying to jump out the gate within the last 5 years and play catch up. You know, like, it definitely doesn't help what DC is doing, especially considering they were so concerned with churning out as much as possible to catch up with Marvel that they didn't really take the time to kind of like build the individual franchises, which might be the one good thing coming out of this, is that some of the uproar I'm hearing is that DC might now start taking these independent movies, like these standalone movies like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, these movies that are coming out, and kind of focus more on making them less about establishing the larger universe and focusing on the character within the film, which is what Wonder Woman did from the jump. So that might be good because that might help establish the individual characters so that the next time a new Justice League movie comes around, they're more developed and they, you could see those personalities meshing. But I definitely do feel like the whole Marvel versus DC thing and that outlook does kind of hurt the DC films. And again, it doesn't help that DC was kind of caving under that pressure and just trying to churn out something quick, and they were doing quantity over quality. So a lot of the films weren't as good as they could have been.
Right.
We've had this discussion before where, people see me as like a DC basher because I take the movies to task, but it's only because out of my love for DC. Like, I love what the movies could be, so when they don't live up to that expectation, I kind of go, all right, well, this franchise isn't doing great. But I really am, honestly, more of a DC fan than I am a Marvel fan. I only really started becoming this hardcore of a Marvel fan as I have been recently because of how well the movies have been doing. Because when it came to, the actual comic characters and, growing up, I always leaned more towards watching Superman, the animated series, and Batman, the animated series. I was more hyped to get home and watch those shows than I ever was to get home and watch, Spider-Man.
True.
The series. So I really always did kind of lean more DC than Marvel. It's just that, like I said, when Marvel started building its film franchise, they took their time with it. They developed the characters, and so the films wound up becoming better because of that, and that's when I started leaning more towards Marvel. But I just want to make sure that people understand, I don't hate DC, and I feel like a lot of people feel a lot of vitriol for DC because of what their expectations are based on Marvel. And it's kind of an unfair comparison because DC is building, trying to do something a little bit different. Right.
They don't want to follow the same blueprint, and I agree with that. Let me ask you guys this. What could be some of the contributing factors of, and again, I get it. It's not a financial failure. It made a lot of money, but in terms of what this movie represents in the bigger picture, I should say, as a fish in the big ocean, it's a minnow. You know what I mean? So let me ask y'all this: what do y'all think also contributed to a low box office? Domestically. Because, again, I didn't see the China score, but if it's crushing it in China, I can see that because that's the number 2 market for movies in the world. And that's a great thing because a lot of movies do cater to China. There was a particular movie that came out earlier this year that I seen in June that somebody didn't remember me telling them was a good, fun movie. And that was The Wall? The Great Wall? The Great Wall with Matt Damon. People shitted on that movie. Man, damn, what the hell is he doing? Whitewashing. It wasn't whitewashing, people. It wasn't. It made sense in the context of the story. And the story, it was a good, fun movie with monsters. I like that shit. Boom. And it was fun. China, it made some bank over here. Nobody went to see that movie. Same thing with, Warcraft. Warcraft was crushing it overseas, but over here, man, nobody's seen that movie. So I want to know, what do you think with something high profile as Justice League? You got Batman, you got Wonder Woman. I'm going to say marketing might have fucked this up a bit. They should have included Superman just a little bit. Nothing crazy, nothing showcasing some story elements, but showing Superman, I think, would have been a smart move. And they did that after the weekend was done. They actually included Superman in the promo posters now. The Alex Ross style poster that they had. Now Superman is there, and I was like, wow, that's good. I wish they would have fucking led with that. So anyhow, Chris, I'm start with you and then jump to Matt. Chris, what do you think might have had an effect on this?
Well, I think the marketing was part of it. Like you said, we all knew from jump that Superman was going to be in the movie, so it seemed kind of stupid that they were trying to limit his exposure in the marketing. I also think that a lot of the press around this movie was negative. Not the movie in itself, but some of the things that were going on behind the scenes, the whole thing with Mustache Gate, where you were hearing that Henry Cavill couldn't shave his mustache from the Mission Impossible movie, so they're going to have to remove it digitally, and everybody's going, oh, that's going to look terrible. Which, I mean, Matt mentioned that he didn't notice it, but like, yeah, like for those who were kind of expecting it and looked for it, like it was very noticeable, and it did look kind of shitty.
The first scene of the movie is very. It's that I think is like because I didn't notice it afterwards. You know, from when he comes back on, I'm like.
Knowing that aspect of it, knowing all the drama about, you know, is Ben Affleck going to remain as Batman? Is he going to step away? What's going on with that? You know, all those things, all those stories that started leaking out of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And then, like, just like a month before the movie was about to drop, there's the whole thing about, like, Gal Gadot said she wasn't going to do Wonder Woman as long as Brett Ratner was still attached. So all these things that were complicating the future of the franchise overall, you know, the Superman thing, the Batman thing, the Wonder Woman thing, all that negative attention was being thrown to it. So it kind of became this thing, like, well, what does this mean for the movie? Like, so there was a lot of negative press, maybe not specifically directed towards Justice League, but the broader world around it.
Yeah.
So I think that hurt it a bit. I think expectations from previous movies probably hurt it a bit because the last big team-up movie from DC was Suicide Squad, and that was a travesty.
It wasn't a travesty. They made $133 million opening weekend.
I don't care how much money it made. It sucked.
133 disagrees.
But it was a shitty movie.
It wasn't that bad.
It was terrible. It was fucking...
It was a borderline Michael Bay music video.
Exactly. It was terrible. So, you know, it's like, you know, people are just still trying to wash the taste out of their mouth from, like, these previous movies that weren't really that great. Like, Suicide Squad was awful. Batman vs. Superman, both cuts were not great. Weren't even really good.
The extended cut made it better, but I agree.
Really, previous to that, the only thing that kind of was okay was Man of Steel. Like, I don't love Man of Steel. You know, it's one of those movies that started losing favor with me the more viewings I had out of it. Initially, I loved it. But it's an average movie. It's a passable Superman movie. But beyond that, up until Wonder Woman, the other two movies that the DCU was trying to put out there, like, were just really not good. And so I think people were worried about Justice League based on those, because those were very Snyder-esque.
Yep.
And they were worried that maybe Snyder's kind of style over substance thing was gonna tank Justice League as well. Then you had, like I said, all this negative press from behind the scenes stuff. Was Ben Affleck gonna step away from Batman? Was Gal Gadot going to step away from Wonder Woman because of the whole Brett Ratner thing? You know, was Superman's lip going to look ridiculous because they removed the mustache? And yeah, I think a lot of that stuff led to people being anxious about the movie. And then people walked into the movie with that mindset. And I think that's where a lot of the negative reviews are coming from, is people wanted the movie to be bad.
Yeah, I went into that movie like, please be good, please be good. And if you're not good, please be better than Batman versus Superman. Because again, I enjoy Suicide Squad for what it is. I don't love that movie by any, you know, and I have a lot of issues with that movie, particularly the overabundance of music. Stop with the songs. It's a cheap pop in wrestling. That's what they call it, cheap pop. It's a cheap pop. But I went into Justice League like, just please be better than BVS. That's all I need. And it blew me away. It exceeded all my expectations. And like I said in the review, it was legitly like watching Justice League Season 1. It was the best episode of that cartoon put on the big screen. They got everything right in my book. Excuse me. In terms of what I wanted to see from these characters. Wonder Woman was brilliant. I love Ben Affleck's Batman. I loved Cyborg. Like, I really love Cyborg. And I hate the Teen Titans cartoon. I don't hate it, but like I didn't watch it like that, you know? And Flash was great, and Aquaman was just, you know, mind-boggling. So it blew me away. I was like, this is... And Superman was Superman. Superman, they got right. That's what... I think Snyder was building up to that. I think he was. I think after Man of Steel, he started hearing it, And then when BVS rolled around, he really got shit shoveled on him and was like, all right, look, we'll kill him off and we'll bring him back and he's a different soups. Okay. But I personally enjoyed that. But Matt, let me ask you, same question. What do you think are some of the contributing factors that kind of bogged down the box office?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the bad press. It's had a rough go from the very beginning with how, I'm not going to say bad, because I actually like BVS, but disappointing it was. You know, it was a movie that could never, ever live up to people's expectations of it, you know, no matter how good it actually was. And I think that got into people's heads and, you know, sort of affect their view of Justice League. And then plus, you know, there's tons of more biased websites out there that are particularly cater to Marvel and stuff. So they're going to view it in a harsher look, that are going to, you know, print a lot of bad press and stuff. And also the marketing. I agree Superman should have been in there a little bit more. The trailers were pretty underwhelming, I felt like, except for that very first one that we got at Comic-Con 2016.
Yeah.
That was that first look. And I think a studio that has a history of interfering with its comic book movies was probably the biggest thing too. You know, we heard all the stuff about, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff about Suicide Squad and supposedly about Wonder Woman, but that seemed to be untrue.
Right.
And then obviously the switch of directors and all the controversy that's come up because of that. You know, like there's actually supposedly way more reshoots than we thought. You know, Joss Whedon firing Junkie XL and hiring Danny Elfman to do the score. The whole Ben Affleck Batman thing, all that stuff, I think contributed to it. Just a studio with a history of meddling kind of got people like, oh shit, you know, we're not seeing the director's like his vision, you know, and I think that worried people. It definitely worried me, and I mean, we got what we got. It didn't blow me away, but I still would prefer to have seen Zack Snyder's original cut. You know, maybe we'll get to see that someday, maybe we won't. But yeah, I think those are probably the biggest three contributing factors.
Yeah, I agree. I got to throw another one in there. Ben Affleck on the press tours just did not seem into it. And I understand he was going through some shit at the time, but he was seriously giving zero effort, it felt. Every time I watch some of these press tours outside of, you know, the States, and I'm like, dude, you're Ben Affleck. Like, you're the biggest name in this movie, man. You have to step it up. You play Batman. Okay?
Yeah.
You have to step up your game here. You can't just go about this thing like looking far off and legitimately giving more ammunition to that fucking meme that's made because of you. Like, dude, you can't do that. You are Batfleck. And seriously, he's my favorite Batman on screen. He is. He is absolutely. I'm watching it again the third time Saturday. And I'm just like, damn, that's a good-looking motherfucker in this bat suit. He gave zero effort during the press junkets. If he was just a little bit more excited about it, and again, you can't, in people's personal lives step into their professional lives, and you can't say, well, they're actors, they should be professional at all times. That's really hard to do. I mean, seriously, if some shit is going down in your life, it's really hard to put on that brave face and go out into the world. But when you have such a high-profile movie, and you playing such a high-profile character, maybe smile just a little bit more. Maybe look like you're having just a little bit more fun. Don't go in there as grumpy Batman. It didn't work. It did not work. Because everybody else you see in these press junkets, they're having a great time. Regardless of how they felt with the movie. But you see Jason Momoa, you see Ray Fisher, you see Ezra Miller, you see Gal Gadot. They're all smiling and joking and goofing around and having fun. And then you see Ben Affleck, and it's just like, well, And in today's day and age of these internet media sites, they eat that shit right up because now they're invited to these press junkets and they're like, well, Ben Affleck was all down in the dumps and depressed, and then they go see the movie and it's fucked up. And then it brings up the shit like the mustache gate, which again, I only noticed it in the very first scene of the movie, and that's the little home video. I was looking for it at that first thing ending. It might have been there, but if it was cleaner. But, these people go in, they focus on that. Like Matt said, the stench of Justice League, like Chris said, the stench of Suicide Squad is still on you. Wonder Woman was a nice palate cleanser. It really was. But it had nothing to do to affect where the story was now, because that was a period piece.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think, like y'all both said, that is a contributing factor. These movies weren't good. Wonder Woman was really good, but it wasn't a part of the overall arc of this movie. What was that? The throwaway line? Did you think that about Steve Trevor, or what would Steve Trevor think about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, that was it. That was the payoff of Wonder Woman in Justice League. That was it. That was it. And it's meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Yet, something like, do you bleed? Yeah, I'm bleeding. I know Matt didn't like that. Right, Matt? That was one of the weird things you didn't like?
No, that was no problem. That one I liked. But, like, when Batman on the ground, thumbs bleed, that was...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That part right there.
Yeah, that was... You could distinctly tell what was Whedon and what wasn't, and that was a big one.
Well, I heard, I don't know how true it is, but I heard that was actually in Zack Snyder's. That was Snyder. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. I thought it was Whedon. It's definitely a Whedon type thing. But I heard that was Snyder doing that. I don't know.
Or when Batman says to Superman, "Well, I don't not like you." That's also the classic Whedon.
I see that.
Just those weird close-ups. That was clearly an insert shot for X character to deliver a one-liner, and yeah, the movie was filled with them, and those were all totally Whedon things.
Yeah, I think the only thing I didn't like, I was kind of like, I don't know. I think when Superman comes back at the end, and everybody's like, all right, and Batman smiles. It's like this weird, out of place look. I was just like, oh yeah, thank God I love this movie. I can overlook that. But all right, look. Before we go on to the next topic, where I'm going to let you two have the run of the show, because I ain't seen these shows yet. Any last thing y'all want to say in regards to Justice League? Are you going to go see it again? Should people go out and check it out if they're on the fence? I mean, Star Wars is right around the corner, and right now, Coco, it's $70 million. That's really good. But that's also 5 days. But do you recommend Justice League to friends who might be like, nah, I seen Thor, and Thor was fine. I don't need to see Justice League because the other two movies suck?
I mean, I definitely recommend the movie. I definitely say go see it for yourself, and don't let, people like me who would normally kind of dissuade you from seeing this movie, because I was wrong. I went into it going cautiously optimistic based on the trailers, but I'm kind of expecting this to not be good because, the previous movies that Snyder's had his hands in, I didn't really love them. So, normally I would be telling people, don't expect too much from Justice League, and I was wrong. So definitely go check it out. And I just did want to touch on real quick, kind of quick, because you mentioned the whole part of what might have put people off was how detached Ben Affleck was during the whole press tour. I actually kind of felt bad for him in a sense, because not just because of the personal issues going on behind the scenes, but it was easy for the rest of the cast to be excited because this was their first toe dip into the superhero genre.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck still carries the weight of remembering what it's like to have the full burden of a superhero franchise be put on your shoulders when it was studio interference and committee meddling in the film that made it bad.
Yeah.
And everybody blames him for Daredevil when the reality was a lot of it was 20th Century Fox meddling in the franchise, and the writing wasn't that great and everything like that. So he just saw the whole thing coming back around full circle. And he'd already been kind of like pushed back off on the Batman film.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, we're gonna bring back Matt Reeves in to do it," and he's just like, "Fuck, this is Daredevil all over again." And I think a lot of them, aside from the personal issues he was going through at the time, a lot of that just like almost like a Vietnam, like I don't want to trivialize it, but almost like a Vietnam flashback coming back at him, like I'm gonna have to deal with this shit again. People are gonna put this all on me. So I kind of felt bad for him because I felt like, a lot of why he seemed so detached during the press tour was because of that. And people already talking shit about him being Batman.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, a lot of the criticisms I've seen about the movie have not been directed towards Batman. But, I'm not happy with I'm not totally happy with the, more jovial kind of wisecracking Batman they put in the movie. But, BVS showed us that he could play a damn good Batman. So, a lot of the criticisms towards Batman that are in the movie, I think, are based more on the writing.
No, I know. Like, I understand that. Like, the criticisms of this particular movie are not on the Batman thing, but I was addressing what Ray was talking about, how because Ben Affleck seemed detached going into the movie, that might have affected people's perceptions going into the movie before all this stuff started happening.
Mm-hmm.
That might have had a negative effect on the box office. So, what I'm saying is that in that particular situation, I kind of felt bad for Affleck because he seemed detached from the film for these reasons. And then his detachment kind of put people in this negative headspace about the movie before they had a chance to go see it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, all right. So, man, listen. Justice League is a good movie. Go see it. Seriously, check it out. I can't advocate for this movie enough. I loved it. I really did. And I will say this. Ben Affleck is a great Batman. My favorite on screen. But he's a fucking damn good Bruce Wayne in this movie. He really is a good Bruce Wayne. And I loved it. And anyhow. Jumping over that.
I've said that from when they first cast him and everybody was talking shit. And I was saying, look, you don't really got to do much to be Batman.
Right.
Throw on the cowl and punch people and say things in a growly voice. That's all it takes to be Batman. But as far as being Bruce Wayne goes, you need somebody who can play the smarmy playboy in the public persona, but still be that kind of melancholy sort of, I just want to be left alone kind of thing, and I hate the world. And those are two dynamics that Ben Affleck does perfectly. The smarmy asshole and the moody, broody, detached guy. So right off the bat, he's going to be a great Bruce Wayne. And that's really where you need the focus to be. Because as far as being Batman, he just needs to throw on the cape and cowl and hit people.
Yeah, real quick, before we jump off the Justice League, I do want to ask both of y'all this question. We'll start with you, Matt. Matt, do you believe we will get the sequel that was set up at the end of BVS? Do you think? Yeah, with the spoilers at the very end. Yes.
No, not anymore.
Okay. You think DC is going to course correct?
Well, based on what I've heard, the original idea for the two-parter Justice League, back when that was a thing, but they were, filmed back to back and all that was, part one was going to be, the antagonists were going to be Steppenwolf and Superman. And then part two would be Superman coming back and, being the hopeful Superman that we all know and love. And Darkseid being the big bad. And I can't see Superman going back to being broody and evil and stuff. I can't see that at this point. They're really big.
I don't think I think this is the Superman we're going to get from here on out. What I'm asking, though, is do you think DC will pull the trigger on a Justice League 2 with the way they set it up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So all right. That good. All right. I'll take that. Chris, what about you? Do you think DC will pull the trigger?
On doing the Justice League 2, definitely.
Yeah? Oh, shit. Wow, I'm surprised.
This goes back to how much of a box office failure is this movie. I think this movie is going to do well enough that Warner Bros. Is going to be okay, we'll give it another shot, you know, especially if the next few standalone films do really well. And I also feel like we might not, you know, have heard the last of like the evil Superman that we might have gotten in two-part Justice League, because they can still do it the way they did in the animated series, where Darkseid kidnaps and brainwashes Superman.
Yeah. They could always be something. Well,
that was after like 2 seasons of an established hopeless Superman. We got.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if they wanted to, there is like a precedent for still going back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. Well, that'll wrap it for that. I'm hoping they do a sequel. Honestly, they should, because that's the movie I want. Anyhow, we've come to this point in time where, all right, it was Thanksgiving. We did Black Friday. I just want to shout Matt out real quick. Matt, I'm going to shout you out. I'm throwing you under the bus, and I'm hitting the gas. Matt, we had an Alien Covenant review. You went and bought Alien Covenant. What the hell is wrong with you? You hated that movie.
Well, keep in mind, I didn't hate the movie. I was just super disappointed with it.
I wish I had known you said that. I would have had the sound bites lined up right now. When I pressed the space bar, it said, I fucking hate this movie. That'd been your voice.
Well, I'm waiting. Go for it.
No, I didn't have it queued up, so you're lucky.
Yeah, it's not my least favorite movie of the year. That still belongs to King Arthur. But I want to give it a second shot, and for, you know, I already have all the other Alien movies on Blu-ray, and for like $8, I figured, fuck it. You know, I'll buy it. I'll give it another shot. If I don't like it, I won't watch it again. You know, I'll watch it once every like 4 years or whatever, as I do with Alien 3.
Oh my goodness. Well, I got the quadrilogy, whatever, on Blu-ray for I think $8 too. I was super excited. I was like, yeah, Black Friday deals on a Saturday. That's how we roll. Matter of fact, yeah, I saw Justice League on Friday. I didn't go any Black Friday shopping. I went Saturday Black Friday shopping, and the deals were still there. Got Spider-Man Homecoming on Blu-ray, ladies and gentlemen, at Walmart for $7 last night, about 10:30. I was like, I'll take it. So that was a good buy. It was like probably my favorite buy of the night. Yeah, Chris, you get any particular Black Friday things?
No, I don't do Black Friday. I don't do Cyber Monday. I like to wait till the after Christmas overstock sales, because those are the better deals.
He ain't lying. That is fucking smart. Speaking of nothing, this is the time I'm gonna throw this over to you two, because we're gonna talk about Netflix and 2 bombastic shows that drop. One in October, one this month in November. And I have yet to watch either one of them. Moving into the new G Show studios has taken more of a toll on me than I initially thought it would. I have not been able to sit down and really just zone in and enjoy both of these shows. I'm talking about Stranger Things Season 2, and I'm talking about Marvel's The Punisher. Both shows out now. I should be watching them, but I have not done it yet. So, Chris, Matt, both of y'all guys have seen this show. If you could avoid spoilers for the sake of the host, I will be in deep gratitude to the both of you. And, you know, y'all get a little Christmas something in your stocking, piece of shit, I'll tell you right now. But I want y'all to talk about it, man. Start from Stranger Things. Chris, you want to kick it off? Or Matt, do you want to host this? It's up to y'all. Flip a coin.
I guess I can start, because I'm probably going to have some more controversial opinions about Stranger Things.
All right, well, go for broke.
The second season was super disappointing to me. 6 out of 10 from the 9 out of 10 of the first season ones. I felt like they played into every cliche that the first season was breaking the mold from. They did. You know, I called pretty much every big moment 2 episodes in advance. Everything was just there was pointless characters. There was one particular episode that derailed the entire narrative, and just, you know, it was an episode I actually was a chore to get through overall. You know, I still enjoyed it, but it was just not nearly as good. They kind of, I don't know, I shouldn't go into that, but yeah, I thought the big bad was pretty dumb. I thought most of the characters' decisions were pretty dumb, and how they just kind of happen to know things that they have no right to know, I guess. No, there's no reason that they should know them. Kind of like the little kids in Gamera films, like the little kid just kind of like, oh, that monster's attacking us because this reason, and the kids in Stranger Things just happen to be able to figure those things out just as easily. There was one character in there that was entirely pointless. It felt like they were setting this person up to have some kind of connection to the greater scheme of things, but no, he's just kind of there. He was just kind of there, and yeah, I was really disappointed with it. I don't like the way that they handled 11 this season. I think that the group worked better without Will. Yeah, I don't know. It was underwhelming to say the least.
Okay. I want to start my end of it by saying Matt is pretty much wrong about everything he just said. Now, joking aside, I get obviously, like, people who follow me on social media and everything, like, you've probably seen some of my posts. Well, I don't know, maybe you unfollowed me. But more or less, like, I feel the polar opposite. I loved everything about the season. And a lot of people make the same complaint about the episode. I know I feel I know what episode you're talking about, that you felt disrupted the narrative. And it did disrupt the narrative, but I've actually debated this with quite a few people too. It's like I actually felt the value of that episode because of the character development that came out of it. And I did feel that this season did do a stronger job of developing some of the small, like, for instance, in season 1, you didn't really get a lot of development out of Lucas and Dustin. Like, you didn't see much about their home lives and, like, who they were outside of the group. And you did get a chance to see that this season. I did like what they did with 11. I liked seeing how she's adjusting to, for starters, she's probably going into puberty now, and I'm starting to see her develop more of a personality. I really enjoyed that. I get what you're saying about how, like, they shouldn't have any knowledge of this, but, like, based on how they were seeing things go down, and then relating that to, an analogy that they got out of the Dungeons and Dragons game, like, yeah, they said, like, no, we don't know for sure that this is how this thing works, but it's the best guess we have based on how we've seen this thing behaving and what it's doing. I think this season was great for Will because you finally got a chance to see how great of an actor Noah Schnapp actually is, because they actually gave him more to do than just be lost in the Upside Down for the entire season. And he actually had, stuff to do in the season. You get to see, the first season we all knew that, like, the other kids were all amazing actors and they handled, like, their emotional stuff really well. But you didn't really see a lot from Noah Schnapp, who plays Will. And in this season, you get to see him exhibit that. And honestly, I felt that he's, like, he exceeds a lot of the other actors. Like, he did really, really well with the material he was given. I'd like to see Hopper's development, how his relationship with 11 kind of tempered him and started making him be kind of more of a better person. I do still feel that Nancy and Jonathan are the weakest characters on the show. And it'd probably be better off if they either gave them something better to do or just kind of sidelined them a little bit more. I didn't really, like you said, with episode 7, the whole her going to find her lost sister thing. I agree with you that wasn't a strong episode story-wise, and I don't think that the characters they introduced really brought anything to it. I wasn't a huge fan of Kali as a character, but I just liked that episode because of how 11 came out the other side of it. Like her character development out of it, and how it helped her embrace her powers more and relate to people more. So I like that episode. Bob was one of the better characters they introduced on the show.
Yeah, needed that.
And I like the character progression they did with Steve. Because I know a lot of people came out of season 1 thinking Steve was a bad guy, which I really don't think there was a lot of evidence for inside of season 1. Where, like, if you actually go back and look at the stuff he did that season, he wasn't really that much of a dick. He wasn't really that much of a bully or a villain. And then seeing who he became in season 2, I was like, I'm Team Steve all the way. I do agree with some of the characters they introduced not really being necessary, like Max and Billy. Felt like they could have removed them from this entire season and it wouldn't have mattered. But I did kind of like seeing the Red Ranger as an evil guy, so that was fun. But ultimately, like,
the Red Ranger?
Yeah, he was the Red Ranger in the Power Rangers movie.
Really? Oh shit! I didn't even notice that.
yeah. Yeah. So, like, ultimately, I would say that it's probably not as, like, I would agree with you that it's not as good as the first season, but very few sequels are. You know, because the first season has that kind of, like, special thing to it, like, where, like, you weren't really sure what you were going to get in this thing. And so when you get something amazing, it's a pleasant surprise. Whereas you already know the show's good going into it for the second season. So it's kind of already set that bar. And you're hoping. So I do feel like it at least meets the first season. It definitely doesn't exceed it. But I did love it as much as the first season. I liked a lot of the ways they took the story. And it made me excited about what they're going to do in the future. But also that final episode with the way it closed out, I was like, you know what? If they had removed that scene at the end where, like, the Mind Flayer is overlooking the school in the Upside Down and just said, this is the end of the story. You know, they defeated the Mind Flayer. All the kids are happy and together. And we're not doing any more Stranger Things. I would have been completely satisfied with where they closed the season out as, like, a total series finale. So I think they did a really good job with that as well.
Man, I want to commend both of you gentlemen for a great back and forth. Gotta be honest, I enjoyed it. I didn't hear any of it though, to be honest, because I walked out. I walked out.
Doing the spoilers, so
I walked out of the G Show studio for a minute. I had to. But okay, so Matt, you didn't like it. Chris, you liked it.
No, I liked it. Just I was pretty disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Chris, I just want to say not all sequels are better than the first one. That's not true. Justice League, just giving you a heads up. Well,
just doesn't have a sequel yet, so
you know what I'm talking about. Justice League is a sequel to BVS. Damn it.
Justice is not a sequel to BVS.
It's the damn sequel. Anyhow, Punisher. You guys both got a chance. What? Punisher.
I don't understand how sequels work.
Punisher, the sequel to Daredevil season 2. Came out. Also dropped a week ago, right? The 17th? Yeah, I think that is why Justice League didn't do well in the box office. Look at the Netflix numbers. I bet you everybody stayed home to watch The Punisher. They're not, they didn't want to go out. Not like my man Chris. Chris went out, saw Justice League, went home, watched Punisher. That's what I wish I could have done. Shit.
Sure did.
But all right, so again, without spoilers, I want to know this personally. Chris, what did you think of Punisher overall in regards to what Netflix has put out so far?
I really enjoyed it. I think Punisher, the way they did it, is a great, like, if you detach the name Punisher from Marvel as a Marvel character and just view this series as its own thing, it's still a fantastic series.
Uh-huh.
So, like, if Frank Castle wasn't a Marvel character and they just made it like this story about a guy who got, an ex-military guy who got screwed over by his former commander or whatever like that, and is like on his quest for revenge, it's still a great solid story in that regard.
Right.
And they really, they drop the Easter eggs in the show, but they really don't try to attach it to the broader Marvel universe, which is, I think, what really works for this. Because you don't have him making references to the big green guy. You don't have, like, little jokes, oh, you're Harlem's Captain America. Like, they don't try to cram the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe into the story somehow, with the exception of, like, the little things you see in the background. Like, And when Karen Page is working at the newspaper now, like she was in Daredevil season 2, and like, you know, in her office were 2 front page things from the newspaper that addressing the terror in Harlem from the Hulk movie,
right,
and the Battle of New York and everything like that. Those are like the biggest kind of Easter eggs you get from being attached to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the rest of it is about Frank Castle and his story, and they don't try to attach anything else to it. So I think that works a lot for it. I like how they expanded the story from season 2 to give him more something to do, but I'm kind of hoping that after this, because, you know, like, I felt like in season 2 of Daredevil, they wrapped up his whole revenge thing about like going after the people that killed his family, and that they would move on from there, and then we'd see more of like the Punisher, like who just goes after random criminals.
right.
But they kind of expanded the story from his military service days and like the people who killed his family. They expanded that outwards, and it worked. It was a great story. But like, I'm hoping now that they focus more on like less about Frank Castle as someone who's looking for revenge for what was done to him, and more of Frank Castle as this guy's like, criminals gotta go.
Yeah, that's the Punisher I want to see.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that by season 2, they're not going to try and say, well, there was actually this guy who was behind the scenes of the whole thing too, so now he's got to go after him. Like, no, let's just get back to focusing on Frank Castle as the guy. It's like, you're just some random mobster, and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure they're setting up Jigsaw as the main villain for next season, which not a spoiler because they announced the casting.
Yeah, no, you kind of expect that to come with the territory.
Yeah.
I don't.
So Jigsaw will probably be the big villain of the next season,
Which is terrible because I like Barracuda more. That's just me personal.
Yeah. But like, I'm as much as I love the show, I'm hoping that for the next season they get more into like the Frank Castle who is just going after random bad guys, as opposed to like having this, you know, I have to avenge my family thing.
Gotcha, Matt.
That's really only his origin story. Beyond that, he becomes like this person. Like, it's not about avenging my family anymore. It's about making sure that nobody else has to feel like that feeling. Like when people take their loved ones away, someone is going to get that justice for them.
Yeah, Matt, you saw Punisher. What was your thoughts? How does it fit? Does it fit?
It fits, but it doesn't need to fit.
Okay.
It works totally, like Chris said, it works totally on its own. I've kind of thought about it, and it's like kind of almost mind-boggling a little bit to like think like, oh, as the Punisher is literally just killing people on the streets, you know, Peter Quill is having some adventure in distance, like deep space. It's a little weird because they're just so drastically different. I really, really loved this show. It's easily my favorite Marvel TV show now. Beat Luke Cage out just not only for the story, but also for the just incredible acting from the whole cast.
Wow, so it even beat Iron Fist. Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't really sprinkled the little references here and now, but I'm glad they didn't mention, like Chris said, the big green guy or the guy with the hammer or anything like that, because we don't need it. They didn't even throw any really Daredevil references in there, and that's good. We don't need that. And while I do agree that I think season 2 will be more about Frank Castle going after, miscellaneous criminals in New York, I think the whole narrative needed to be expanded on from his origin in Daredevil season 2, because we get into this whole thing about PTSD and the corruption of the CIA and shit like that, and I think it totally worked within the story, and just on a story basis alone, I thought it was phenomenal. And I like seeing that backstory because, you know, Frank Castle is a very damaged man, to say the least. And it's good to elaborate on that more than they did in Daredevil and see more about what went on behind the scenes. And I think it suited the character really well because now I view him in a completely different light than I did in Daredevil, and for the better.
Yeah. Man, well, shit, I got work to do, man. I got to watch these shows seriously. So let me ask you, what should I watch for? Stranger Things season 2 or Punisher?
Probably Stranger Things.
All right. I just hope that
knock it out and get it out of the way.
I just hope Stranger Things happens to the Punisher, and in next year, October, we get Frankencastle. 'Cause I'm down for that. I am down for that. Let's start doing crossovers, Netflix. Let's start doing crossovers. You know what I'm saying? Let Frank Castle go into the Upside Down and just tear Harry. I'm with it. I am fucking with it.
More importantly, I would like to see a Black Mirror episode based around Orange is the New Black.
Well, now look at this. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call it here. Oh, that was pretty good, man. Damn it.
I was expecting a bigger laugh.
Well, yeah, I'm fronting, man. I ain't see Black Mirror yet.
It's pretty good. It's like 100-day Twilight Zone.
I think I watched like half of one episode and I just shut it off. It's like, all right. I don't know. I gotta get into it. But that'll do it today for this episode of the Geek Out. Guys, thank you guys for joining us. Coming out of your Thanksgiving comas. Matt, thank you.
Of course.
Chris, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll see y'all next week. Again, go see Justice League. It's really good. Trust me, it's like a throwback to 80s movies, filmmaking. It's fun. You'll have a good time. Watch The Punisher. Watch Stranger Things Season 2. Go get Stranger Things Season 1 in the dope VHS case. Matt, that was freaking dope. I was going to buy it. I saw it at Target. I was like, ooh, that shit is pretty. I left it alone, though. I got to pay rent. I got to pay a mortgage now. Stupid.
Only $10.
I didn't they didn't have that sale when I was there because I didn't go Black Friday. I went Saturday.
Ray, I don't know why you're telling everybody to watch The Punisher and Stranger Things when you're the only one who hasn't.
It's true. And again, on that note, we will see y'all all next week. I am G1. This is the Geek Out. Peace.